What do the Eagles think of him? Without further ado, I could not. And by the way, I got to hand it to Angelo. I go, Angelo, you got to come on after Nick's contract the other day. He goes, listen, I had to take my Ambien, and I've got my grandkids, and I'm just too depressed right now, and I had some pasta vazul, and I had to calm myself down a little bit. My wife made me some yokis and all, and I'm all right. I go, but now so Angelo, after his depression, and he's like able to go with us here a little bit. Here's Angelo Cataldi, and I just want Angelo. Are you still depressed? Oh.
Well, I doubled my dosage for antidepressants, so I'm a little better now. But I got to admit, when I heard it did happen, it didn't please me. And then I saw all the cloak and dagger stuff, all the Sirianni. We're not going to give. No, we're not saying how many years. We're not saying how much money. It's all a big secret, right? Well, you're telling me that you did not give this guy a glowing endorsement if you won't even tell me how many years you gave him. You just said it. Statistically, the guy should be, Reed's getting $20 million, all right?
Right.
Which, by the way, he should give half of that to Mahomes, all right? Because I saw him coach without Mahomes. He ain't worth $20 million, all right? But that besides the point. Nick, they don't think he's that great. I honestly believe that. First of all, he's young. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 of them. He's got this 48-20 record or something like that. You should want to give him a 7-year, $15 million a year contract and then make a big announcement of how this is our guy for the foreseeable future. They didn't do that. They didn't come close to doing that because they don't think he's that great.
Angelo, what, like you said, I mean, Kansas City, as soon as they gave Andy Reid the $20 million, they started parading around. We're making him the highest paid coach in North America. He makes more money than any guy. We're so proud of what Andy has brought to the organization. He brought Brett Veach in with him, and then you turn around and you're like, what I didn't like also, and, I hate getting you on here and ripping the Philly media, bud. So after Nick shuts it down, the media doesn't follow up going, hang on here.
No.
Every coach and has their contract publicly put out there and what an organization thinks. Mike Tomlin got an extension. They told you he made 16.5. It was in the Pittsburgh Gazette. Why? What? I mean, for them not to follow up and go, we just want to know what Jeffrey Lurie and Howie think of you. I mean, isn't that what we're talking about here?
Exactly. See, they'll tell you they think he's brilliant. And you don't realize all the, and then you'll get a couple of his lapdogs who write columns telling you, if you can't see how amazing Nick Sirianni is, that's your problem, not ours. Well, I can't see it. I've been looking for a long freaking time. I get 3 years of talking to him after every game. I never saw it. I still don't see it. I'm pretty sure we'll never see it. The closest I saw to who Nick Sirianni really was the end of the previous season where they fell apart and he had no way to put them back together. That's what I saw. And then I saw that he got more successful the minute they removed more of his responsibilities, right? So the more responsibilities you took away from him, the better he got. That doesn't tell me he's some brilliant coach. I don't buy it. And the fact that he's hiding it, let me tell you something. One thing I know about Philadelphia, because I've been here a long time. When you start keeping secrets from the Philadelphia sports fans who have sold every seat, bought every jersey, did so much to show their loyalty to your team, you're slapping them in the face. You're spitting in their face. You're saying to them, you are not worthy to know what I make. Now, we'll give you all the details on Hurts's contract. We'll give you all the details on every other player, but not me. You never get to know what I make. So you know what? I don't need to know. I don't need to know, although I trust what you're reporting here. But I know it's not an endorsement of him if they're keeping it a secret.
Absolutely. I mean, let me go over the press release too, and the glazing and the non-following up of asking this. I mean, I don't know what this was. I don't think anybody, including you, were under the impression they weren't going to resign a guy. But here was the initial release. As an organization, okay, we have always strived to create a championship culture and sustain success.
I
Well,
believe that.
he's glazing himself,
Yep.
but I agreed. Nothing
Right.
is more important in fostering such an environment than
Right.
having a tremendous leader. Nick
Right.
has embodied everything we're looking for. Angelo, I read that like, well, everything that we carved out for him to be able to be a guy that we look at
Yeah.
was carved out, and he's lived up to being the ultimate yes man. When
Exactly.
I saw that press release, I was like, that's not telling me anything.
Well, it told me something. It told me he does exactly what they want him to do. That he came in, kissed their ass. Whenever they strip him of power, he says yes. Whatever else they need, he says yes. He is. See, here's what they really think, Dan. And this is not hard to analyze. They think they are the brains of the operation. And I'm not arguing. Harry Roseman may be the best GM in all sports. They think you could place an idiot, not me, but a slightly better idiot in charge. And as long as he listened to what they told him to do, they would win. That's what they think. Now, I got to admit, the roster they put together last year is the best I had seen in all the years I've been here. So I was really excited to see it. And I was excited to see that they got to win a championship with it. But I give very little, ridiculously little amount to the head coach, because I don't think he had that much to do with it.
Angelo, let's play along with me here. If Kellen Moore was the head football coach, Vic Fangio was the D coordinator, Jeff Stoutland was the run coordinator, and Kellen was calling plays, do you believe the Eagles would have still won the Super Bowl a year ago?
If Kellen were calling all the plays?
If Kellen was the head coach and Nick wasn't in the
it wouldn't. Yes, it would have just
It wouldn't
saved
have
the salary. It would have saved the salary, Dan, because Kellen did all the work and Vic Fangio did all the work. And Nick stood there and said, boys, I'm pulled by my bosses to give you guys the authority, knock them dead. And, to his credit, he did that without rocking the boat. He must understand that he's not that brilliant himself, that he is willing to step aside or doesn't have a big ego, whatever it is. He's not a great coach. His record is great. Is he a good coach? I'm not there yet. He's not a bad coach. He won a Super Bowl. He must when I was on with you last week, Dan, I haven't stopped thinking about it. George Seifert.
Yeah, George Seifert won 2 of them.
Well, George Seifert won a couple, and then he kind of faded away and never won again. But he is the best comparable I see to this guy.
He was 108. He was 108 and 35 in 8 years in San Francisco when they fired him.
Right. Well, something tells me a couple of years down the road we'll be having that conversation in Philadelphia. I hope not, because I had so much fun when they won it all last year. But I don't think that head guy is doing a lot to get him there. And about the media, Dan, if you're waiting for somebody other than Marcus Hayes, I keep him out because Marcus is still doing the job the way it was designed, right? But if you're waiting for any of the other guys to take a bold stand and give you an opinion that doesn't align with the interests of the teams they're writing about, you're kidding yourself. It's not going to happen anymore. It's the number one email I get. And I get tons of emails, even now, 2 years past retirement. And they still say to me, what happened to the media in our town? When did they get this freaking soft? And I'm suggesting to them, maybe they're not getting paid enough. I can't figure it out.
That could easily be here.
Right.
Angelo, I heard one other thing before I get to the owner here. I heard this. Was asked a question about Philly, and he goes, "We really love it here. We love living here. This is a place that kind of, we're starting to like to, have the attitude of the fan." And I went, "Dude, when I look at Philly, you ain't it. I mean, bullshit artist and guys who are yes men. That's not my impression.
Oh,
Maybe I'm wrong and maybe
no,
it's changed, but I mean, when I see Philadelphia, I see Vic Fangio,
no.
I see Jeff Stoutland, I see that toughness, that Jim Johnson type coach, somebody like that. He ain't it. And if you think ass kissing is the face of Philly, I mean, the only thing that keeps him in that room, in my opinion, is the fact they're winning. It ain't because he bodies the city. Or am I wrong?
No, I get to communicate with the fans every day. And they're the same way. They didn't change. And people think, well, everybody's kinder and gentler now. I don't think so. I doubt it. Look on the internet. All these message boards and TikTok and TikTok, all this stuff. They're all, people are vicious. Their evil side is still right there.
Yeah.
They just, and that has always existed in Philadelphia, and I think always will. But the media now, I don't know what, I can't explain it. I just know that we right now, we have a large collection of pussies, and all of them try to out-pussy the other guy. And I read it every day. I wrote about it this week on my blog. I wrote about the way they're covering the Phillies, right? I know the Phillies have the best record in the National League and all that. They don't cast a critical eye, and they don't see things that are wrong. And then when things go awry at the playoffs again, they'll go, oh, what a surprise. I didn't see that. No, just watch the games. You'll see that Rob Thompson still doesn't know how to manage in a moment. You'll see it. Watch the games.
I've always said this about managers. I mean, I don't know what his background is, but I always like to have catchers as former managers of my baseball team, because you know why? Those are the guys that understand handling pitching staffs.
True.
When to take a guy out, when to take not a guy out, how long do you want to go with a gut feeling? Do you want to go analytics? I've always thought catchers really make sensational, like Bruce Bochy and them guys. They make really great managers because, again, they have a sense of the game. Remember, they see the game. Everyone else sees the batter. The catcher sees the game in front of them. Defense, starting pitching. I mean, I don't know. When I see Rob Thompson, I see a guy that looks in a book and goes, let's take him out now because it's 5 2/3.
That's it. That's entirely it. He's always looking down. He's always looking to see what the numbers tell him he has to do next. The guy's in baseball his whole life. Yeah. Use your instincts. Try that once in a while, unless you have no faith in yourself, which must be what's going on. But I'll tell you, he's got people who are in love with him because he's kind and he's gentle and he's sweet. Great. Well, I don't know. I got to cover games with Dallas Green and Earl Weaver and Sparky Anderson and guys. And those guys were not sweet. Don Zimmer banned me from the locker room at Fenway Park. It was great. It was like he hated me and I hated him, and it was sports as it should be. Where did that go?
Oh, I know. Sparky, Captain Hook. That was his nickname, man. I mean,
loved him. Loved him.
Captain Hook there. Hey, real quick before I move on here, thumbs up or thumbs down on Dombrowski? You think he's done a good job with the Phillies team, or do you think that they still have those glaring flaws when it gets into October? It'll always come down to the pitching staff and bullpen.
His trade deadline this year will be huge, bigger than it's ever been for him, because he's got a chance. Obviously, he's got a chance, got a good hitting team. It kind of hits a lot of dull periods. It has periods. Harper's not having a great year, and I'm worried that he's not on the way down now. I'm a little concerned about that. But they're deep with the lineup. Their starting rotation's as good as anyone. And they got a bullpen that's going to need to really get bolstered. If they do that, and he's capable of doing it, they got a real shot. The thing with Dombrowski is he probably will make a couple of big moves because he's got people in the minor leagues that other people would love to have. He's got a couple of great arms. Had one to pitch the other day, Abel. He was really good. And he'll be able to get what he needs with that. And he is known to mortgage the future for today. So they got a shot there. It's just Nobody is ever looking at them in any sort of a critical way. And then the two winter teams here, the Flyers and the Sixers, no one ever says anything bad about them. They had a debate today on my old show, and Rhea Hughes had to debate a guy from WIP who was arguing that Joshua Harris is a good owner. And you're going, what's wrong with you? Wait, do you live too close to 3 Mile Island? What's going on? Do you have things going through your brain that are causing you not to think logically? What are you doing? You know,
I mean, you know what? Hey, when I look at the Sixers and you watch that phony ass parade of interviews that Daryl Morey did and every stop he was making.
God.
I mean, seriously, the host in Philly, they must have had to use a lot of Carmex that week on all the ass kissing that was going on.
Oh my God.
I might just go like this. You're telling me you think Josh Harris is a good owner when you had one of the worst records in the history of the Sixers, and you're trying to tell me you have Embiid who you can't move now, and you try to justify the Paul George stuff? And you watch what the Knicks are doing with players that they've assembled, the way that they've built that team.
Yeah, that's
Come
a
on,
team.
man.
That's a team that choked remarkably last night. My God, I can't believe that.
17 points up, they go down in the Garden.
God, how did they do that? But that's what being retired, I get to watch that stuff now, and it's so much fun. I love when stuff like that happens, especially when it's not my team that choked. It's beautiful.
Man. Hey, but then again, you got to admit, can you imagine? I mean, Knicks fans, here's my impression. Knicks fans are like Cowboy fans.
Right.
I mean, you would swear that Bill Bradley and you would swear that the Busher and Frazier played last year. Hey, dude, that was 1973. I was 11 years old. What are you talking about? You haven't been good in like ever. This is the first time in 25 years you're in a conference final. You got Knicks fans, and watching them melt down like that was so iconic. And why you see Spike Lee going, hey, Doug, that's the way it works. Pacers ran them down.
Timothy Chalamet all of a sudden. I don't really know what he's doing. He did the Bob Dylan movie, but now he's there every game, right? And I love when these big celebrities, these rich guys, that they just get crushed in a horrible loss. It's fun. It's fun to watch.
Speaking of rich guys, so the chest pumping that went on yesterday with the Yachtsman at the NFL owners meetings, getting in there. And I've not ever heard this, Angelo, in all your years of broadcasting. I've never heard an owner use the phrase wet dream and talking to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your takeaway with how the Eagles handled themselves with that whole case?
Well, my theory is that going into that session before the vote for the tush push, more than half of the people were supporting the Eagles. And then Jeff Lurie got up and gave an hour-long presentation. All right. I'll be honest with you, Dan. I thought years ago the United States banned waterboarding. All right. Because that is a form of torture like I cannot imagine. And I could see if he went 10 more minutes, they would have banned the tush push, because that guy, I'll tell you, here's what I would have done if I was still on the radio, because my brain still thinks that way.
I got to take notes.
I would have here's what I would have done. All right. I would have cut different clips of him at different news conferences. And then I would act like we had the tape of the actual meeting. And then every few minutes we go back to it, and he'd be droning on about how, let me give you my philosophy on it. And then you'd hear in the background snoring or people collapsing. And then toward the end of it, you'd hear a siren. And you go, I think they're coming in to rescue some of these people. They're going to kill themselves. They're not going to make it. And Lurie, I can guarantee you that Lurie spent half the time telling his fellow billionaire owners that they're so brilliant that they figured out a way to do the quarterback sneak within the rules, and no one can stop it. And then, knowing him, gave him chapter and verse. Back 2.5 years ago, it was a snowy morning, and we were all sitting around. We went, well, what if we get Goddard behind Hurts and we shove him over? And he went into excruciating detail. And I could just see there was one of the Bob Irsay passed away yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Was it during Lurie's speech?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to double check on that. No, but I did hear that Jed York, the owner of the Niners, said, "Yo, wrap it up."
Yeah. I think 3 of these guys put their teams up for sale. Good, I can't deal with this every day. Oh my God, what a pompous blowhard, right?
Oh.
And the one thing I think he did that worked, and I know Jason Kelsey personally. Jason went up there in 5 minutes, explained exactly what the play was, what the physical punishment or lack thereof was of it, and gave a compelling case. 5 minutes, 10 at the most. The boss just can't stop talking. When he is on a roll and he just won a Super Bowl, being around him right now, seriously, I think I'd rather be doing 2 to 4 in a federal prison than hanging with that guy right now. The head.
Hey, Angelo, do you think that guy is look, the contract that they just gave Nick, it's funny because when I look at him now, doesn't he look impulsive that even though they gave him that money, 13.5 or whatever the number's going to land on, how fast could this thing turn around? Say they get out to a bumpy start and they start rolling. Does that contract mean anything? Because when you look at the contract now, it looks like it's a way out the back door because it's not a full commitment. Like you said, if I wanted to make this 5 years, we have this guy, he's my guy, and we're going to stand by this guy like the Steelers do, the Rooneys do with Tomlin. They're always standing behind him, and Mike hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years. Do you think the tides could change if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, where they would be back to where they were at the end of 23 and the beginning of 24, really?
Well, the thing is, you're right that they can leave, but not just because the contract is manageable. It's because with the numbers, with the record he's had, those numbers, he'll be scooped up the minute he gets fired. He'll be the hottest commodity on the job. Now, once they meet him and hang out with him for a while, they'll realize, oh boy, this didn't work. This is not quite what we thought. But it's not going to cost them anything. Somebody's going to pay him more than they're paying him now, and they'll be absolved of having to pay the rest of the contract. Look, I am not about to make predictions about how many wins the Eagles are going to have this season based on what I said about last season. So let me just say that the biggest thing about this contract is they wouldn't give you information.
Correct. I agree.
And that requires you to do it. And you may have the right information. You may, who knows, right? But here's the thing. There's no reason to hide it.
None.
Unless it makes the statement that we like this guy, but we're not going to. He's not Dick Vermeil in his prime, even though he never won here. He's way more popular. Sirianni is not that popular after all this time, Danny, that's the most amazing part of it, that Sirianni went to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, and you don't hear people saying how great he is anywhere around this city. When Peterson won, he was beloved. Vermeil never won and was beloved more than Peterson. But this guy, people can see through it. We're not stupid.
Who do you think
the Eagles aren't either? They didn't give him a top salary or a lot of years because they know that he's not that great.
Who do you think the fans revere more, Doug Peterson or Nick Sirianni?
Peterson, without a doubt. But neither of them as much as Andy freaking Reid. They love Andy Reid in this town.
Why?
And I dedicated 15 years of my life, Dan, to convince them that Reid was a robotic dope. And it didn't work. I lost. That is one of my great failures. He's beloved here. He's the most beloved Eagle coach, and he never won a Super Bowl. It kills me.
Angelo, final question for you. I'm doing, besides the show here, which is absolutely blown up in Philly, I'm doing a show now in Tampa now from 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Radio on the radio at 8:20 a.m. to noon. And I'm gonna bring you up tomorrow, and I'm gonna ask you, what's the one thing right now that you don't like about today's radio or today's media, that you don't like what you hear, what shows? Radio's changed from us. Obviously, you can't say and do the things that you and I did when we were lunatics when we first started.
You're
There's
right.
way more guardrails. And I said this morning, Angelo, that I love radio. I just hate the people in it. Okay. I mean, I just hate the people in it. And I think, they could drive you out of it and they could make you have a bad taste for it. But, you and I were raised on radio. I mean, this is what it is. You were a newspaper guy first, obviously. But what is it in your eyes? And what?
Well, there's no question what it is to me. And that is that far more than I had when I started in radio 40 years ago, or even when I left it 2 years plus ago, that the teams now have more control over the message being sent out by sports talk radio stations. They have more control. They're less inclined to just take the criticism and deal with it. They are more likely to call the boss, call, the Eagles now are owned, WIP is owned now by George Soros. Call George Soros's office, the hedge fund guy, and tell him it's bad for business that they're saying this stuff. Do an end around. They tried it with you. The Eagles did.
I know.
They will. The problem is, when I started, even though for most of the time I was on the air, I was working at a flagship station for either the Eagles and or the Phillies, right?
Yeah.
They would try it occasionally, and it wouldn't go anywhere because the people in charge said, you stay in your lane, we'll stay in our lane. Our job is criticism. Your job is to accept it and learn how to deal with it and get more successful so we don't have to rip you. And the fact is now the teams are much more effectively controlling the message coming out to the public through radio. And that's why you, to me, are one of the last ones standing who will say to a team and to your boss, don't put handcuffs on me. I got to give my opinion. I think I know what I'm talking about. I'll do it in an entertaining way. Just stay the hell out of the way. And that's the best, that's the thing that's changing. And every day, Dan, there isn't a day I don't wake up and go, I'm so happy I'm not doing it every day anymore. I'm so happy I don't have to fight that fight every day, because eventually I was going to lose it too. We're all going to lose it. You're going to lose it.
And I know, it's navigating through. Hey, I do want to follow up one thing that you said. I thought CBS, I thought Odyssey owned WIP. So did Soros buy a stake in WIP, or did he buy a stake in Odyssey? What's his influence? Because obviously
he owns it.
He's a liberal.
He owns it.
He owns it. He owns WIP.
Odyssey went bankrupt about a year ago or so.
Right. They got
bankruptcy.
They first got
the deal. Yeah. So part of the deal, George Soros bought up the stock at a very damaged price, and it took over. It went through, I guess, about maybe in the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, and he got rid of the top 8 executives, including David Field, who was the owner.
Yeah,
he was the original owner. Yeah, nice man. Really good guy. And they cleared it out, and now it's more of a corporation than it's ever been before. So if somebody went to George Soros or somebody had said, I don't like what they're saying on one of your stations, I don't know, George, maybe he would defend us. I don't know. But I have a feeling, since he's more of a bean counter, that he'd be more likely to do whatever was in the best interest of the business. And that doesn't work well for sports radio, because you make enemies. If you're doing your job right, you make enemies.
I wonder what they thought then of the Eagles and some of the players going to the White House when Trump was there. If Soros has that much of because Soros is an anti-Trump guy. Yeah, I'm surprised that the organization maybe didn't get a call from George Soros, because again, at the end of the day, Jeffrey Lurie is a liberal guy who donates money to the Democrats. And for him showing up, I don't know, is it playing both sides, you think, here? Because this is really political now, because Soros is not a guy who is going to float on both sides of the aisle and give you fair broadcasting. He's going to be a one-way guy. He's going to be – do you think they turned WIP into NPR?
Well, no, but I could say this. Lurie going to the Rose Garden for that ceremony was a major upset. Wasn't written about, but because he is extremely liberal and he is not a Trump supporter by any means. And he went there and he made nice with Trump. And again, I am spending more time on politics now than I did when I was just the radio guy.
Wow.
And my guess is, based on what I'm seeing, is that people are more inclined to play ball with the president now than they did in his first term. That his power is stronger now, and they don't want to play around with it. They don't want to get on his bad side. And I think you're seeing that over and over again. So I don't think George Soros would have gotten involved in any way with the Eagles going to the White House, because he doesn't need the man who is running the country right now with strength and power. The last thing he needs right now is to get on the bad side of Donald Trump. So I have a feeling that a lot of people are playing ball with him. That's why it's interesting that the Eagles didn't go in 2017 after they won the championship. And part of that was Malcolm Jenkins. He was he was the political leader on the team. But Lurie didn't fight to go. And then now he shows up. Some of the guys didn't. It's fascinating to me how so many decisions that we think are sports-related decisions are really business decisions.
Oh, absolutely. Especially now with Soros.
More than ever.
Oh, my God. Angelo, can you imagine? No wonder you're getting cream puff broadcasting at WIP now, because you got to be careful. If you're floating anything against anything, you got to be almost like Disney now, and you've got to be on that side of the aisle. I mean, if you're going to talk about transgender people being involved in girls' sports or what have you, that's not going to float if you're talking about George Soros having an influence over WIP, because content is king with that guy.
Well, I'm not saying he's ever interfered in the time he's been there. I'm just saying that when you have a change in ownership in your radio station, chances are at some point the new owner will assert himself. And if that happens with WIP, if that happens at any sports radio, then the fight begins, the tug of war. Can you really speak your opinion, even if it alienates somebody you're in a business deal with?
No way.
I don't know. It's harder now than it ever has been, Dan. Much harder.
Absolutely. Angelo, tell folks where they can find your blog, how they can find it. You do it weekly. I know we read it all the time. It's absolutely great. And by the way, I mean, you on the radio right now, boy, I'll tell you, man, I don't know, Angelo. I think there'd be like, the old bat phone? Yeah. It was like a bat phone that started blinking red. I think you'd have that red Howard Stern old phone in your
I had a boss that would do that anyway. So I got plenty of that in my early days.
That to you? Tom Bigby would do
that all the time. And he would go, "Get off this topic now." And then I would go, "Follow me." Click. Anyway, it's AngeloCataldi.com. And you will find, I actually, I criticized my co-host Keith Jones in this week's one. I had a whole bunch of stuff in this one, and I had to criticize.
And you love the guy.
I loved it. He's maybe my favorite human being other than family. And I had to say that he's just fallen in the same trap all the other guys did. Let's get another flyer in here. Now it's Rick Tocchet, right? And I had Rick Tocchet on my show many times. And I knew how boring hockey was for our audience. And you know what I talked to him about most of the time, Dan? His heartwarming love of soup. You say to this guy, you say to Rick Tocchet, Rick, describe your finest soup for me. And he'll go, "Oh, easy." And he'll give you 10 minutes on it. You go, "Italian wedding soup with little meatballs."
Oh, my God. With the spinach in it? With the
little pastine and the all. Oh, and he would do. Then, like, with 2 minutes to go in the interview, I go, "So what do you think the Flyers are? How are they doing?"
Hey, you know what's funny, folks? I asked Angelo for a number over at the Flyers. He goes, "I don't really have any connections there because I don't really talk about them."
No, I never talked about them because they were boring. And guess what? They're more boring now with my friend running them than they were when I was there. Jeez, come on, wake up, people.
Angelo, thank you for all this time, man. I
No
so
problem,
appreciate
man.
it. Make sure you check his blog out. Angie, thank you so much, my friend.
Be well, my friend. See you soon.
You got it. That is Angelo Cataldi, our good friend. We appreciate him so much. Man. Oh, it is always so good to listen to someone who's like me. Oh, you know what's great about it? The passing of the torch kind of thing. Angelo Cataldi passing the torch to Big Sills. Yeah. George Soros now owns WIP. No wonder it's shit radio. I didn't know that until right now. Holy cow. Working at WIP must be a nightmare when it comes to top. Oh my God, I could never work there. Holy cow. I'd write down probably, if you've ever seen the Howard Stern movie, my topics that I write down every day for you guys, I guarantee you, and I have to go in the program director's office, and they would probably edit half my content. And what I could and can't say, remember this, they're not telling you the truth any longer at WIP. They're not. Seals, I just got off the phone with the CFL. They're moving the Jets to the CFL. Yeah, they're going to play the Argonauts in the Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's going to be a big-time game. Great stuff. Look at Sue. More than half. Sue, seriously, they would never let me talk to you guys. So when you guys criticize me for some of my takes and some of the things that I say, you may disagree, and I have no problem with guys like Twiz. Okay, get this. Hey, Twiz, one thing we could say here on this program, at least we have our opinions. I'd have to have their opinions. And I would have to edit you off my show if you didn't agree with their opinions. Think of that. And by the way, Twiz, that's why you're a great viewer of ours. And EL too. That's right. Get this. Howie should give me my own show. Yeah, oh no, you'd be perfect because you'd be the biggest ass kisser on WIP, and that would roll perfectly, M. Reyes. Are you kidding me? You're made for IP because you're the biggest glazer of the Eagles there is. You would be a grand slam. You know what? They should put in the trades. If you're looking to work at WIP, you have to have M. Reyes skills, ass kissing. And if you ass kiss, you're in. How you doing? Everything is great. The GM's great. We got better in the offseason, even though we lost half our freaking team. It's all good. I'd listen to M. Reyes. Of course you were, sweetness. Of course you would. Holy cow. Hey, can you imagine this? No. Wait a minute. 90% of you would never be allowed to talk on WIP. Get this, 3 starters is half the team. Let's see, you lost a guard. You lost an end. You lost a defensive tackle. You lost a safety. And you lost a corner. I don't know, boss. 1, 2, 3. That's 5 starters. And then your linebacker in the Super Bowl is 6 starters. I don't know, kid. Keep trying. Keep trying. 3 starters. Yeah. 4, right. They lost 4. Holy shit, Dank. Not you even. Milton wasn't a starter last year? Whatever, guys. Look at this. Pretty soon you guys will be doing this. We only lost a starter. Holy cow. WIP, owned by George Soros. Holy cow. Okay. Oh. Incredible. All right. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. Xander's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Damn. George Soros. All right, folks. Our great friend, John Morgan, who was great yesterday, by the way, and his company. Absolutely sensational when you're talking about the #1 injury law firm in America. That is Morgan & Morgan. With over $30 billion recovered for clients across the country. The reason they're #1 is why they win. They win. Okay? Our Clancy Bolin, our guy in Philadelphia, who is a crime fighter, is telling me that it's just off the charts in all the cases that they're winning. If you are ever injured, do me a favor. Check out my friends at Morgan & Morgan by going forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sales sent you.
This is Eric,